Hi everyone. Before we begin, some practical information. This session will be recorded, and later a copy of this feed would be put onto our JU web and YouTube channel. Secondly, kindly ask your questions in the Q&A function, not on the chat function. We will answer all of the questions at the end of this webinar. So once again, warm welcome from the International Office. We are always excited to offer a platform to our potential students to be able to connect and interact with us and get exciting, motivating, and useful information. So I'm your host, Jasim, and today we will discuss about JU's guaranteed accommodation. The only catch is that all steps should be followed correctly. The guarantee only applies to admitted students at Jönköping University. Family members are not included in the guarantee. We will discuss all of the details in this webinar, for which we have invited an expert and head of our accommodation. So everyone, please welcome Susanna Gran. Hi, Susanna, how are you doing? And please tell us a bit about yourself to our audience.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's nice to be connected, even if it's online. My name is Susanna and I manage the accommodation office, and I have been invited to give you some hopefully useful information about the guaranteed housing that Jönköping University provides, and also to give you a few pointers in regards to what to think about when making the applications and what the accommodation guarantee actually means. So I have a presentation. I want to show you guys a few things on the JU web that can be very useful, because we have a lot of information there about housing, and then also obviously try to answer as many of your questions as possible. So yeah.
Great. So do you have a presentation for us?
Yes. Let's see. So can you see?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, good. Okay, so let's get started. So first of all, I wanted to explain to you guys, what does the guaranteed accommodation actually mean? So what it means is that Jönköping University guarantees accommodation for all new arriving international students, and also important to add that Yasim mentioned, it goes for after you have been admitted to the university. We do not provide housing for families, only for students, the actual student. So if you are planning to bring your family, either a spouse or children, you will have to arrange accommodation by yourself. The recommendation that we give you, it's a personal decision, obviously, but if you are planning to bring your family, given that the university cannot help you with that you plan ahead before bringing your family here, to arrange housing beforehand, because it can be a little bit tricky. And I also want to mention that the main reason for us not providing family housing is that our housing options are not suitable for families. They're not big enough and they are not suitable for children. So that's the main reason. In order for you to be able to use the guaranteed accommodation, you have to do two things. You need to make an application for the accommodation, and you also need to register your arrival. So the actual application process is divided into two parts. And to complete the application and be guaranteed a room or an apartment, you need to complete both steps. So when you have completed the application, it also comes with some commitment from your side. So one of the things that you need to be aware of, that it's important that if you do complete the application, meaning both apply for housing and register your arrival, that equals signing the actual contract. So that means that you are guaranteed accommodation, but it also means that you cannot cancel the application without paying any rent. It also means that you accept that the placement that we make at the accommodation office, meaning the house you will be given, that you accept that option, even though it might not be one of your choices. And I know that a lot of students wonder about this and worry about this. So I just want to make it very clear that, and I will mention it later as well, that in your application, you will make 3 choices. In the majority of the cases, we are able to put you in your first or second choice. So this means that there's a very, very small group, if any, students that are not given one of their accommodation choices. So, but it can happen if we have, you know, years of very, very many applicants, but it's very rare. So I want to mention it, but I also want you to know that in most cases, we are able to provide you with one of your choices that you apply for. So to explain a little bit about the application process, you will be sent login details shortly after you have been admitted. If you haven't received them yet, you will very shortly. So there's no need to worry about it if you haven't received your login details yet. When you have received your login details, you can log into our system. First step is to pay an administrative fee of 700 Swedish kronor. This fee is, as written, an administrative fee for us handling everything, which means that it's non-refundable. So if you choose to apply for accommodation, even if you maybe are a little bit unsure if you're still coming, or if then these 700 kronor will not be refunded should you not use the guaranteed accommodation. When the payment has gone through, you can register 3 choices, as I just mentioned. You can also fill in if you can consider sharing a room with another student. You can reply either yes or no, so it's not an obligatory thing. But when you fill this in, please know that this means actually sharing a room, not sharing an apartment, but actually sharing a bedroom with someone else. If you, for example, are planning to come here maybe with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your best friend, and you really want to stay together, you can also fill in that you want to share with a specific person. This you only have to fill in if you actually really want to share with someone. If you don't want to share a room, or if you can consider sharing a room, but maybe not with a specific person, you don't have to fill in this. But if you have a specific person that you really, really want to live with, then you can fill in that person's name. The application part of this process now is open now, and it will be open until the 25th of May. So until then, you can apply for accommodation. You can also log in and make changes if you figure something out, or if you want to maybe change the order of your choices, what have you. Until the 25th of May, you are free to log in and make any changes you want. After the 25th of May, it will not be possible any longer to make any changes in the accommodation application part, because then we close down the application. The second part of the application that I mentioned before is the arrival registration. This part of the application will open on the 1st of July and it will close on the 20th of July. So as you can see, between the 25th of May and the 1st of July, there's sort of a gap where actually nothing needs to be done from your part. So no need to worry if you don't hear from us or anything like that. The thing you need to do after you have filled in the accommodation application part is to register your arrival. Now, the registration of arrival must be done if you want guaranteed accommodation. It's not optional. However, if you are unsure of the actual date, maybe you haven't booked your flight yet, or you don't know because you're still waiting for some papers or your visa and you feel unsure, fill in the approximate date or the date that you are planning to arrive. You can always change it afterwards, but don't leave it blank, because if you leave it blank, your application will be dismissed and you will not have accommodation upon your arrival. So we get a lot of questions about this. That's why I want to highlight this, that it's really important that if you want to make use of the accommodation guarantee, you have to register your arrival. If you are unsure, that's fine, but just fill in a date that you are planning to arrive, and then we can change it afterwards. But no arrival registration, no accommodation. So it's very important that you fill in both parts. So once the arrival registration is done, then the application is complete and you are guaranteed accommodation upon arrival here in Jönköping. I also quickly wanted to talk to you about our pickup service. And this is a really good thing. And it's it's highly appreciated by all our students when they arrive, because you will get some extra help if you choose to arrive during a pickup service. The pickup service for the fall semester will be 19th to 22nd of August. And we will be open between 1 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night. So it's quite many hours. What will happen then at the pickup service? Well, we will pick you up from the local bus and train station or the local airport, meaning in Jönköping. So if you land in Stockholm or in Gothenburg or Copenhagen or similar, you have to travel to Jönköping by yourself. We don't have any pickup service from any of those airports, but once you're here, we will pick you up from the local bus and train station or airport. We will take you to the university where you will sign your contract for your accommodation and get your keys, and also receive some other useful information for the upcoming introduction weeks. And we will also give you a ride to your accommodation. Now, please note that it's not obligatory to arrive during these days. So if you, for some reason, are unable to book flights that will match those dates, then that's fine. But we highly recommend that you try to arrive during these days, and that's for your sake, to get the best possible welcome when you arrive here, because we will have staff who will take care of you and can answer any questions. We will drive you to your accommodation if you come with a lot of luggage and things like that. The roll calls and the introduction week will start on the 23rd of August. So that's why we have the pickup dates just the weekend before that. So if possible, we highly recommend that you try to join us during these dates. So I wanted to give you some tips about what to think about when applying for accommodation. First of all, I would really recommend you guys to have a good look at the different housing options that we offer. You will get a lot of information about the different housing options at our JU web, and I will show you later where you can have a look, because we have different choices and we have different rent levels and different kinds of accommodation to try and accommodate everyone's wishes. So it's very important that you have a good look at each option to see what would suit me the best. What's the best for me? Do I want to live by myself in my own apartment, or do I want to live by myself in my own room, but I would like to share the common areas with other students to have that experience when you when you move to another country, or maybe you're here for a semester of exchange studies as well. Do I want to live really close to the university, or do I prefer to have maybe a little bit of lower rent? That would mean maybe living a bit further away from the university, but obviously within very good connections with the bus and things like that. There are a lot of things to take into consideration. Am I willing to pay maybe a little bit more rent because I really want to live close to campus, in the city center, in my own apartment? Or do I want to live in a residential hall, sharing the kitchen and bathrooms with other students because I want that communal feel and maybe to lower my rent a little bit? Also, in each housing options, we give you the information about the rent levels. And then you might wonder, yeah, but the rent levels varies also within each accommodation. Yes, they do. And the reason for that is, depending on the landlord, they set the rent based on different things. But a lot of landlords base the rent on the size of the room or the size of the apartment. So one room might be a little bit smaller, costing a little bit less, and one room or apartment might be a little bit bigger. And that's why the rent is a little bit higher. The placements are made randomly, so it's not possible to choose a specific room or a specific accommodation. That's why it's important that you have a look at what's the lowest rent level and what's the highest rent level also within the accommodation, because you might be placed in a bigger apartment or a smaller apartment. Also have a look at how is the rent paid, because most of our housing options, you pay the rent in one go for the whole semester. But there are some accommodations where you pay your rent quarterly, 3 months at a time, and in a few accommodations where you have a monthly rent. That might also play in to your decision. We do, as a general information, say that you should be able to pay up to 7,000 kronor per month in rent. Now, this is a quite high amount. We are aware of that. And I want to point out that most of our accommodations does not have those rent levels that high, but there are a few. So that's why we give you this sort of roof, so to speak, of the highest rent levels. Most accommodations have a lower rent level for sure, but that's also why it's important that you have a look at each of the housing options to figure out what might suit me the best. Also, you know that you will fill in 3 choices of accommodation. Make sure that all of the 3 choices are places where you could actually consider to live, because we do get that quite a lot, that maybe the student is very focused on the first choice. So the second and third choice might be, well, I'm just filling in something, and then maybe if you get your second choice, upon arrival, you will say, yeah, but I really didn't want to live there. So why are you giving me that second choice? So obviously rank them 1, 2, 3, but make sure that all of the 3 choices you fill in your application is actually places where you can consider living. And it would be okay for you to also live in your third choice, even if you much prefer your first choice. And then again, I want to really emphasize that when the application is complete, as in you have applied for accommodation and filled in your arrival registration, that is the same thing as actually signing the contract. So if you cancel your accommodation after the 20th of July, which is the last day to fill in your arrival registration, that equals that we will charge you a cancellation fee of 3 months rent. So up until the 20th of July, you have the option to still cancel just by not filling in your arrival information. But once the application is complete, the best thing is that you do have your accommodation guaranteed when you arrive, because it's a tricky housing market in Sweden and in Jönköping, and there's a lot of students who are looking for housing in the beginning of each semester. That's why we also provide the guaranteed housing for international students, because it's an extremely competitive market that can be really difficult to get into. But it's also important to know that there are some things that you do sign up for when you use the guaranteed accommodation provided by the university. So maybe you wonder, what will happen when I have submitted my application? What's the process for the accommodation office? And I will not go into this in detail, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of information. And we start the preliminary placement process during the spring semester. And the first thing that we do take into consideration, obviously, are your personal application, what you have written in it, what your choices are. That we also have to see, but how many rooms will we have available for the upcoming semester? And how many applications do we have to each accommodation? Because it might be that we have 200 students applying for an accommodation with 50 rooms. And then obviously we cannot place all of you 200 in 50 rooms. That's impossible, you know? So that's also something we need to take into consideration. We also have to take into consideration that we need a good mix of students in each accommodation. And I'm sure that you can agree with that, because I don't think that you want to move here in Sweden and then move in with 15 people from your home country or from the same university as you. You want to mix, you want to meet new people and new nationalities. So that's also something we need to take into consideration when we make the placements. So even if we start the preliminary process of placing students during the spring semester now, changes can be made for many, many different reasons until the last minute before you arrive. And that is why we have problems with providing you with the information beforehand as to where you will live. And we know that there's a lot of you guys who asks for this information beforehand. And the only thing I can say is that we are working on trying to figure out how we can provide you with this information beforehand. We haven't figured out the solution yet, because we don't want to provide you with information about maybe a specific house, a specific room, a specific rent, and then you think that you will stay in a specific room, and then when you arrive, changes have been made. So we are working on trying to find a good solution for that, but at the moment we don't have it yet. So, but you have a little bit of background as to why we do have the difficulty of providing you with this information beforehand. Now, as you all know, we are still living in the pandemic, and in regards to housing questions, there are some Q&As about accommodation where you can find also on our website in the FAQ sections for students. So if you have any specific questions about cancellation rules and what have you in regards to Corona, please have a look here. And yeah, I think that's about it from my presentation. And then let's see if I can instead show you a little bit on the website. No, can you see? Yasim, can we, no? Can you see this?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, so you see the housing options, right?
Yep. Yeah, we do.
Okay, so then I will just take an example here. For example, Kunskapsfabriken, which is one of our newest accommodations, actually, right in the middle of the city center. Here, what I can say is that you can find some general information about the actual house. You can see how many students live here, which is actually more now because the whole house is open. I will change that. It's 220 students living in this house. You can see that all rooms or apartments are between 16 and 30 square meters. The rent is paid per semester. So this is the range I was talking about, depending on where you will be placed for one semester. And you will also see here how close it is to campus. You have some pictures here showing some examples of the apartments and the general kitchens. And also down here, accommodation details, you will find what's included and what's not included and what you can expect of the house. So this kind of information we have for all the housing options that we provide. So that's really important and good to have a good look here before you make your application, if you feel unsure or if you have any questions. Because here you will find good information about each house and how to pay the rent and everything. In general here, I know it's quite a lot of information, but it's also really useful information that you will find here. So it's really good to have a good look through the accommodation pages on the JU website, because you will find most information that you need here. And you will find updated information about the pickup service, and you have a direct link here if you have any concerns or questions about COVID-19 and the pandemic and how that affects everything regarding housing. So I strongly recommend you guys to go in here and have a look, and have a good look at the housing options before you make your decision, because it's so very personal with housing. You know, if you want to live by yourself in your own apartment, or if you want to live in a shared house, because maybe you're just here for one semester, or you're here, you want to make new friends and you want to have a bit more of a social life. Maybe you want people to cook with, you know, what have you, then it could be a better option for you to maybe stay in a place like the Bete House, for example, or Råslet, where there are shared facilities.
Great.
Yeah, so I think that's about it.
Great. Shall we take a Q&A session now?
Yeah.
Can you, you're able to look at the questions, right, Susanna?
Yeah, hold on.
I can already begin, perhaps. I can, say the questions.
I don't know what happened now. I'm sorry.
Well, I can begin with the first question I see on the screen here.
Yeah.
Is Matt Weiss asking, I've applied for accommodation. I would like to know a little bit more about Eckhagen and its features. Thank you in advance.
Eckhagen. Yeah, now I can see. Sorry. Are you in the Q&A section or?
Yes, yeah. Click on the Q&A function and go on the top and then,
Yeah. So Eckhagen is situated about 10 minutes away with the bus. It's on one of the main bus lines. So they leave for the university or for the city center each 10 minutes. It's small apartments, so you will have your own apartment, but in a big student area. There are 350 students living in the area, but you have small self-sufficient apartments. So you have your own bathroom and your own small kitchen. it's furnished, and you have a common house that you can access, and you have the laundry facilities not in the apartment but in a separate common house. And yeah, it's highly appreciated, I would say.
Thanks, Susanna. The second question I see is, I paid the accommodation fee, but the website still mentions status unpaid. It has been a few days. How is this possible?
Yeah, it depends on how you paid, because if you pay with your credit card, it should go through straight away. If you weren't able to pay with your credit card and you did a bank transfer, as you also can do, then it will take a few days before the payment has been transferred to us, because then it takes a few banking days for us to get the money, and then the finance department needs to receive the money and book it in our system that it's paid. So it's nothing to worry about. But if you paid with your credit card and the payment hasn't gone through, or the status is that the payment has gone through from your side, then you can send us an email and we will have a look at it. Otherwise, if you did a bank transfer, then it's completely normal and just wait.
The third question I see is, what if I do not get an accommodation, which was one of my choices, and in return I get a dormitory with a higher rent that I will not be able to afford?
Yeah. I would say that very, very rarely happens, because if we wouldn't be able to give you one of your choices, obviously what we do is to have a look at, so what were your three options? So if all of your three options were, maybe a shared accommodation or so for a lower rent, then we will try to place you in a very similar accommodation than what you applied for. So it would very rarely happen. But again, just to sort of cover all eventualities, I will have to point to the fact that we do inform you guys that 7,000 is a sum that you need to sort of think about, that it could be possible, even though it very rarely is. But I would say, if we wouldn't be able to give you one of your choices, we would look at giving you a similar choice as possible, also rent-wise.
Great.
Yeah.
I would like to have more details of the listed options: price, location, type of accommodation. I think this information is already on the web, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So please go there, Claudette. You can find information on the web. How's accommodation assigned? Is the order of application counted, or something else is taken into account?
Well, I mentioned a little bit about it in the presentation, what we take into account, but obviously, first of all, we try to have a look at the choices you made. That's the foundation of the placement. Okay.
And the next question comes from Leah. I would like to know if we can choose our future accommodation, or it's according to remaining places. I don't really get the question, but maybe, I don't know. Did you get it?
No, not really.
Yeah,
maybe, but I can only also mention it, is that the guaranteed accommodation that we do provide is the accommodation that we give you, or that you get when you arrive. So it's not a part of the accommodation guarantee to change accommodation after one semester, for example. Then you need to cancel the contract and look for housing by yourself. However, if you are here for your bachelor's or a 1 or 2 year master program, for example, you can live in the same accommodation for the duration of your studies. So it's not something that we only provide housing maybe for the first year or something. We provide housing for the whole period of your studies, but in the accommodation that we provide you with from the beginning.
Great, thanks. The next question is, if I do not use a pickup service, will you also take me to my accommodation? Or in such a situation, after receiving the keys, do I have to get to the dormitory myself?
Yes. We only provide the pickup service during the dates that I mentioned.
So how does the process goes if they come after the pickup service?
If they come after the pickup service, it's very important that you keep in contact with us so that we can arrange for a time when we can meet you. And obviously that would be Monday through Friday during office hours. We won't have any staff available during evenings or during the weekends after the pickup service. So it's really important that you just contact us and we will arrange time where we will meet you to sign the contract and get your keys.
When we say evening, what time are we talking about?
Usually after 4 o'clock.
So the service is not available. So service is only available until 4 p.m.
Yeah.
I have applied for guaranteed accommodation and I would like to know the options for me and my spouse. Sorry, we don't, if your spouse is not studying, then we don't offer accommodation for the family. We have already given that info during the webinar. But if she's studying, then you both could be, you both could live together, and then you should, how Susanna, in that case, what should they do?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, if let's say both, girlfriend and boyfriend or husband and wife come together and they both are students, and if they want to live together, how does that happen? Do they select something in the application or something?
Yeah, then what they do is that have a look at the housing options again to see, because we do have a few options that are very suitable for sharing actually. For example, Gräshagen is suitable for sharing 2 people. We also have a few apartments in an accommodation called Linsen, which are also very suitable for sharing. And the option of Bäckadal, for example, is also very suitable for sharing. So then what you do is try to apply for those accommodation options that are suitable for sharing. And then you can also mention each other's names. And then we will be able to put you guys together like that.
Okay, Jad Kamar is asking about, I was supposed to receive the login credentials. I still have not received anything. So I think you already gave an answer for this, Susanna, that, just hold on and you will shortly receive some info, right?
Yeah.
If he applies together to admit students, is it possible to live together in an apartment? Yes, we already answered this. If we register early, do we have more chance to have our first choice than if we register at the last minute? So can you give an answer on that one? If
yes,
is it like last in, first come, or
we don't practice first serve, first come as a general rule, because the admittance process is still ongoing. So there are students now that already have been admitted, but there are also students who are continuing to be admitted during throughout the spring semester, which makes it a little bit unfair to use the first come first service, as not everyone has the chance to apply at the same time. So the only it's very rarely, but a few times we have used it if we have to make a decision on, there's a lot of students who have applied for the same housing option, and we have to sort of make a selection on where to place them. Then if you have applied earlier, it might be a little bit easier to get your first choice than applying very late. But it's not something that we work after like always. So it's, yeah.
Okay, Phil is asking, what about the quarantine period after you arrive? Do they have to do any, do they have to go into any quarantine?
No.
No.
We are following the Swedish authorities and what they are recommending. And as long as they are not, the public health service is not recommending any quarantine. And as far as I know, a quarantine at the moment is not something that they recommend. So we keep up and we follow whatever recommendations are being made. So at the moment there's no quarantine.
Okay. When I try to apply, it says that my username or password are incorrect, whereas I can connect for my application form. what password should I use?
I can't answer that question straight away. I'm going to have a look in the system. So the best is to send me an email and I can have a look at that separately, because I have to get into the system to have a look at that.
Okay. And what email should they use? Accommodation?
Accommodation@ju.se.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in that email, you could also find, we could also leave in the chat function, but we could also find on the web.
Yes.
And then the next question is, I would prefer not sharing a room with someone, but I have submitted a name with whom I may share a room with. Then what should I do? Should I cancel the name, or is it possible that I will receive my own room? It's a confusing question.
Yeah, well, I would say if you don't want to share a room with someone, then if I were you, I would not then leave in my application that I can consider sharing a room with someone, and also leave a specific name with that, because then obviously if you leave a specific name with someone that you want to share, we will try to put you together with that student. So if you don't want to share at all, then log in and change your application to don't want to share. Yeah.
Not all the housing options at the application site are described at JU site. How can we have more info? Also, Roslyn is not mentioned on the application site. It's a question.
I'm not sure what you mean with the application site. Roslet is mentioned as an option on the web, and it should also be available for choosing as an option in the application. So, but I will have to double check that, but I don't think. And then, yes, all the options are mentioned at the website. So, yeah.
Okay. I plan on bringing my dog. Are there accommodations which allow dogs? Also, is it possible to arrive a month or two earlier? Is this dependent on how long my paperwork visa will take with Swedish Immigration Agency?
Mm-hmm. No pets are allowed in any accommodation at all. So you cannot bring your dog and stay in student housing. And it's not possible to arrive a month or two earlier. The earliest to move in will be, let me just double check so I don't say the wrong, will be the 2nd of August.
Okay. What is the difference between Match House and Match House 2?
No difference.
Okay. I have, okay. Are the rooms furnished, or do we have to buy our own furniture?
All rooms are furnished. They are furnished with a bed, a desk, a chair, lighting, obviously, and a wardrobe.
Thank you for organizing the session. Our accommodations signed on a first. We've already answered this.
Yeah.
Hello, are the water and electricity bills additional to the monthly semester rent, or all is included?
All is included. So in each accommodation, independently on where you live, electricity, heating, water, and internet and furniture are included.
Great.
Yeah.
Does everyone have to pay the rent? I mean, if I'm a European citizen, do I have to pay?
Yes. It's not free to live in student housing. So yes, you have to pay rent.
On the application website, there seem to be 3 more options than explained on the housing options website, namely Arcadian, Gulavilan, and Match House. Yeah. Could you please explain these 3 accommodation options as well as the difference between Match House and Match House 2?
There's no difference. And those options have been taken away because they are, it was a mistake, and I apologize for that. The reason for them being taken away is that they are very, very small houses that that are usually full. We rarely place new students there. And Match House and Match House 2 are put together, so it's one big house. It's just a formal mentioning for us working with it, so it's the same.
Which place is the most popular? Sophie is asking.
It depends. It really depends on how and where you want to live. Råslet is very popular with international students, but there are also a lot of students who wants to live in the city center. So it's really hard to say because, as I said before, the housing thing is really personal. So it completely depends on what you feel comfortable with.
I was wondering if it says that the bathroom is located in the apartment / dorm. Does this mean that I will not be, I will not have to share it with other students?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yeah, so I think the question is about the students trying to wonder if we say that the bathroom is located in the apartment. Does this mean that I will not have to share it with other students? You will, right? Because it's in the apartment, not in.
It depends on the house. You know, like for example, in Kunskapsfabriken, there are only single apartments, which means that you will have your own bathroom in the apartment. But in Råslet or in Linsen or in a lot of other options, you will share the kitchen and bathrooms with other students.
And does this information is written on the website?
Yes.
Is this, yeah. I would like to know a little bit more about the Linsen and Kunskapsfabriken, and Kunskapsfabriken has common areas as well as private rooms, right?
Kunskapsfabriken has communal kitchens, 2 on each floor, that can be used through a booking system.
Mm-hmm. But the bathroom is inside the room, right?
The bath in each apartment, there's a single bathroom and also a small kitchen and a refrigerator that you can use. In most of in Linsen, there are 6 apartments that do not have a kitchen, but they have access to the communal kitchen at all times for cooking. But apart from those 6 apartments, all apartments have their own small kitchens and bathrooms, but they can also make use of the bigger kitchens if they want to. Yeah.
Okay. When do you have to move out? I don't really understand that question, but maybe the student is trying to ask about after finishing their education or exchange studies or whatever. So
yeah, the contracts, most of the contracts, I would say, are based on 1 semester at a time. So they are automatically prolonged 1 semester at a time if the student doesn't cancel the accommodation by themselves. So when you finish your studies, you will need to move out. Most accommodations would have the end of June and the end of December, 31st of December and 30th of June as the last date to move out. You will not be able to stay after you finish your studies.
Mm-hmm. On the registration page, I saw multiple options that aren't on the website of JU. How can I find those apartments and their specifications? So I think it's the same question, right?
Yeah.
So that was a glitch and we have fixed it, right?
Yeah, it's fixed.
Can someone sleep in your room when a friend will come for a few days holiday?
We have, well, I would say like this. Now, due to the pandemic, it's not allowed to have visitors to stay with you for obvious reasons. In regular times, you can have a friend or a family member to come stay with you for a maximum of 3 nights in a row. And that also means that you have to notify us before the visit. So we need to know when your friend is coming to stay. And this has to do with the fire security of each house, that we are responsible to know how many people are expected to be in the house. And also if you live in a shared house where you share kitchen and bathrooms, it's also a good thing to ask your fellow roommates so that they are okay with you having a visitor. since that would put more people in the kitchens and more people in the bathrooms. So it's a balancing act, but of course you can have a visitor to come and stay. But it's also very important to know the difference between having someone to visit you for a few days and to have someone move in with you or live with you. That's not allowed.
The next question is, I'm planning to come by car. Which apartments offer parking places? Each one, right?
Most housing offers parking places, but there's a little bit different on if they are for free or if they cost you a monthly fee. In the city center in general, for the accommodations, there's a fee to be paid to rent a parking space. So it's a little bit different.
And do we have this information on the website where the parking spaces are free or something?
No.
No. Okay. Do you have a collection of reviews from previous students concerning these the housing options?
No, we don't actually, but I think there's a lot of, I don't have access to those because I manage the accommodations, but I'm sure you can find a lot of Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups and what have you that will tell you both good and bad things about the accommodations.
I finished my application from yesterday and I can't connect to the accommodation application page with the login and password that I have got at the moment. Will I receive new credentials to register for the accommodation?
No, but I'm not sure what it's meant by finished my application. Is that the application for the university or?
No, I think he's trying to say about the or she's trying to say for the accommodation.
Okay.
That's what
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not 100% sure how to answer the question. I'm not, it's not completely clear, but you should be able to use the login credentials that you have received. It's not, it doesn't change. But if you have problems with it, then you can, again, send us an email, because these are questions that I'm going to have to go into the system, so I won't be able to solve it right now, but I'll be happy to help.
In Linson, you have a shared apartment, right? Do you have, So yeah, we have already answered that. So I think how can we apply to Rosled is not on the application site. So again, the same question came up.
Yeah, I will check that with our IT department, but it has been before, so I don't know. But maybe there's a fault in the system. I will check that for sure.
It looks like a lot of dorm rooms only have a kitchenette without an oven. Does that still mean there is an access to a bigger common kitchen? Yes, we have already answered that. Yes.
Yeah, in Kunskapsfabriken, you have a small kitchenette, as I said, no oven in the apartments, but you can access ovens through the common kitchens in Kunskapsfabriken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As there are a few single apartments, can I just have one choice? I don't really understand that. I'm a pathway student in Grena. Can I apply on Studbord.se? And what is the difference between this site and the houses which are offered in the JU website? There are some houses and accommodation that are not mentioned in the JU. So yeah, same question. The last part is the same, but the first two parts are, I think, perhaps an answer.
There are a few single apartments. Tanas, it's because I think you're here now, right? I think it's easier. Can you send me these questions through an email? Because a little bit depending on where you are in the process, it's a little bit too long to get into here. So I think I will help you if you send me an email and I will answer you through there.
Are there rooms in the dormitories that are not shared and have their own bathroom?
Not in dormitories, because if you live in a dormitory, or depending on how you define that, obviously, But in a dormitory, as I would define a dormitory, that would be you would have your own room, but you would share the kitchen and bathrooms and common areas with other students. Then there are apartment options where you would have both a kitchen and a bathroom in the apartment. But the dormitories does not have any options with a single bathroom. Then it's shared, but the single room.
The next question, when will the rent contract start for the fall semester? I think that's a good one.
Yeah, most contracts starts on the 2nd of August. And some contracts, for example, in Roslet, they will start on the 15th of August. But the majority starts on the 2nd of August.
So it doesn't really matter if you come late or, by 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, you still have to have the contract signed from the 2nd of August.
Yes, you pay the rent from the beginning of the contract independently on when you arrive.
Do we get a list in advance with people who are going to live in the same accommodation so that we can create a group chat? In this way, it might be easy to be in contact from the very beginning and make new friends.
No, I'm sorry, you don't. And that's, we are not allowed.
Yeah, GDPR.
Yeah, exactly. We are not allowed to provide that information. So it's no.
Is it possible for you to support the family to find an accommodation? Is there any platform where we can find a place to live prior to our arrival?
We don't support families to find housing. You need to do that by yourselves. And there are a few platforms that you can use, but since we know it's a little bit tricky because the fact that you don't have the Swedish civic number that most landlords require to have.
Yeah.
To apply for accommodations, there are a few private options like Airbnb. I would recommend, and I would recommend Blocket. It's called, to have a look there. And there are also some private ads along. I would say like this: don't use, because we don't use rental agents here in Sweden the same way as it's used abroad. So I would never register on a page where you have to pay to register, because that's usually not a good option. So apply through web pages or have a look where it's free and you can access everything.
I could also recommend Facebook page John Shipping Market. So that's really good as well. On the website, there is information that the pickup service is available until 10, but now you said 4. So I can, it's just 10 is for the pickup time period, and 4 is after the pickup time period has passed by. So
yes,
and we already mentioned that in the presentation.
Yeah.
And is it visible somewhere how many people share a kitchen? No.
No.
But I think you shouldn't be worried about it, because some of the kitchens have a booking system, and you will still be able to manage in a very decent way.
Yeah.
All of the accommodation are free to charge in summer.
No, they are not. It works like this: if you move in, for example, in August, and then you stay for the whole. You stay for the fall semester and you stay for the spring semester, and then you are continuing your studies and you're staying in the same accommodation again, like you continue to stay in the same accommodation for the next fall semester. Then in some accommodations, you will have 1 month rent free over the summer. But that is only if you are continuing to stay there. So if you're moving out in June, for example, then you don't get a month's rent free because you're moving out. So it's only if you're staying on for the starting your second year, so to speak. Then in some accommodations you do have 1 month free over the summer.
Are there any recommended housing options for exchange students?
No, we don't really make any differences in regards to if you're an exchange student or a program student, maybe, but this is just a general thing that maybe you would want to stay maybe in like a dormitory or a hostel residence if you're an exchange student, because that's usually where you meet maybe the most people if you want to make friends quickly.
Are there any rooms with 2-person beds instead of small beds?
No.
And the next question is, what is a pathway student? So pathway is just another program we offer, and it's for those who are lacking English or mathematics. So it's just another teaching option for them. Can you please enable Rossless as an option on the application side? Yes, we have already notified this, and we will try to fix it. Is it possible that 2 students from the same university were together in an apartment? Yes, we have already answered that it's possible. You could, if you want to share together, so you can, do that. What accommodation are shared houses? I'm going with a friend and we want to stay in the same house. Same question again, but not in the same room. So they want to live in the same house, but not the same room.
Yeah, and then my recommendation would be like, it might not be possible, but the sharing option that I mentioned before, like when you actually mention someone else's name and you fill in that you want to share, that is primarily for sharing a room. Mm-hmm. So just that you think about that, so that you don't fill in that you want to share and a specific person, and then have the expectation of being put in the same accommodation and then might be put in the same room. So the shared option is mainly if you want to share an actual bedroom with another person.
Lena is asking, can I pay for each month?
It depends on the housing option, but I would say prepare for semester payments, because that's the majority of the housing options.
Okay, if we join a place where we pay the rent by the semester, is there a way to move out during this period, say after 3 months? And if yes, are there charges?
I mean, the contracts are written per semester, so you do pay for the whole semester. Then you obviously have the option to move out after 1 semester, but the majority of the contracts are written per semester.
Hi, Susanna and Jassim. I understand that the 7,000 SEK to be accounted for as monthly rent. My question is, what has been the lowest monthly rent so far? Thanks. So 7,000 is the maximum that we have mentioned, but you're going to get your first, hopefully first 3 choices you're going to choose from.
Exactly.
And what about the, let's see, what about the knowledge factory and raw smooth housing options? I don't really understand that.
I knowledge factory I get, but what's raw smooth? I don't.
What is knowledge factory?
Kunskapsfabriken.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about? I don't know how to answer that. I don't know.
No, yeah, exactly. I think we have already answered so much about that accommodation anyways.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Linson? We have already done that, I think.
Yeah.
Is it possible to cancel accommodation in the middle of study year due to pandemic?
It's like this, shortly. If you are not able to travel to Sweden due to the pandemic, that would be external factors that we call it. If the borders would be closed, if your embassy, or if the embassy is closed so that you can actually not move forward with your biometrics or your visa applications, if all flights are cancelled, for example, if there are things that, or your government would prevent you from traveling, or if the Swedish government would prevent anyone to enter the country, for example, obviously that would put the situation in a whole different light. If you make a personal choice to leave due to the pandemic, then that's not something we take into consideration, and we will charge you for the whole period of time, even if you choose to leave earlier.
Do I always have to announce visitors? For example, every time when my boyfriend wants to visit me and stay for a weekend?
Yes, you do. And this is the thing, is that obviously depending on where you live, but if you would live in a dormitory, for example, it's not always highly appreciated that you have someone to come and visit every weekend, because the house is for the tenants who live there and pay rent, and not for very, very regular visitors. So it's a balancing act, obviously, but but you do have to let us know about the visitors.
Is there no possibility to have visitors for more than 3 days? For international traveling, only 3 nights may not be worth it.
No, but there are also hotels and hostel options that are quite cheap. So if you have family friends visiting for a longer period of time, we would recommend them to stay in a hotel or a hostel and not live in the student accommodation.
Can we, let's see, I lost my way. Let's see, where am I? Yes. Is there, let's see, yeah, where can I find a room when I don't want to live on the campus? Are there some websites for this? When I don't want to live on the campus? Well, we have already answered that, so we will not go into that.
And then the only thing I would add to that is that obviously, I mean, the accommodation guarantee is obviously optional. It's a service we provide. It's not something that we require you to do. It's a service we provide because we know how difficult the housing market can be. So just be aware of that. And this is just a tip. It's not, you make your own decisions. And if you want to try to find something by yourself, then you should definitely go ahead and do that. Just be aware of the fact that we do have a lot of international students who option, we have some, at least international students who option to try and find something by themselves. And usually what happens is that they don't find anything, and then it might be too late to come back to us and for us to be able to help. So just have that in mind.
I was admitted last year and paid the application for accommodation, but deferred the course to this year. Should I have to pay another application fee?
Yes.
This is a deferred case.
Yes.
Okay. And I picked up a course which states that it is until the 16th. Course which states that it is until the 6th of Jan, and you talked about the most of the rental contracts are until end of December. What about that?
Yeah. So usually what we say about these cases is if you have full-time studies that requires you to be on campus, and this is not just maybe to take one re-exam or so, if you actually have full classes going into January, then we do make exceptions and prolong the contracts for just 1 month. This is very rarely though, because even if most courses are officially going into January, you usually finish by Christmas time anyway. And that's why we have set the cancellation date for the 31st of December, because there are a lot of students who do prolong their contracts and then they change their minds because they don't actually have to be here. But if you have full-time studies that requires you to be on campus, then obviously, we will work something out and you can just come and talk to us about that.
So Romy is asking about the options for, he would like to have a shared kitchen, but would like to have a personal bathroom. So
there's no options like that.
Okay. Can I change my accommodations preferences after I've applied for the preferences?
Yes. Until the 25th of May, you can change.
Are some cleaning tools provided to use, for example, a common vacuum cleaner, or you have to buy it yourself?
It depends on where you live, but if you live in a dormitory or a shared accommodation, then the basic cleaning equipments are provided. And for example, in Kunskapsfabriken, where you live in your own apartment, there are vacuum cleaners that you can loan.
Okay. I also have the same problem as already mentioned. Sometimes regarding the accommodation application, when I try to apply, it says that my username and password are incorrect, whereas I can connect for my application form. What password should I use, or will the problem fix soon?
Yeah, I don't know why it is like that. Again, I can't go into it here. So
yeah.
If there's a fault in the system, I have to check with IT. So shoot me an email and I will have a look at it tomorrow.
I want to live close to the university campus. So which house should I choose?
Have a look at the housing options. It's clearly stated there how many kilometers away the housing options are from the campus.
Yes. I would like to know the rent isn't monthly, right? It covers for semester, or are there exceptions? Yeah, we have already answered that, I think. No. Am I able to change the accommodation after a semester of living there?
No.
After a semester? No, okay. Is it
not
possible?
Through the university, I should add. You won't be able to change through us, but if you want to cancel the contract, then if you find something by yourself, then obviously you're more than welcome to do that. But changing accommodations through the accommodation office is not possible.
Guys, you have to understand that this is a guaranteed service. It's a service we are providing. So it's not so simple for us to do this. Is it possible to share one room apartment accommodation with my boyfriend, who will also be a student? So she's asking about Kunskapsfabriken.
In Kunskapsfabriken, we only have a few apartments that are made for sharing, because most of the apartments are too small to share. But we do have other options, like for example in Linsen, we do have I think it's 8 apartments that are 2 bedrooms and 1 shared kitchen and bathrooms that are very good for sharing boyfriend, girlfriend. Also, as I mentioned before, Gräshagen and Bäckadal are also good sharing options for a couple.
I wouldn't go into the next question because that information is already on the website. Price range of an apartment accommodation. So please find that information on the website. Is it necessary to pay for a semester? Is it possible to pay monthly? No, we have already answered that. Can we access to our accommodation before the pickup service? As you indicated that we can access them from August 2nd and the pickup is from 19th. Yes. And what do they have to do then? I mean, do they have to still announce their arrival, right? I mean,
yes, exactly. I was just going to say that. So important that you still register the date of your arrival, and then it's the same as if you would arrive after the pickup services, that keep in close contact with us so that we know when you're coming, so we can meet you and give you your keys and the contract. So keep us informed and we will fix it.
Is there a deposit?
Also, depending on the accommodation, a few accommodations have a deposit. If they do, then it's a refundable deposit that you will get back when you move out, unless you have done something to, not cleaning or what have you. But it's also, it should be stated on the housing options. But I know, for example, Ekhagen has a deposit and Gräshagen has a deposit.
What accommodation offers independent apartments?
I'm sorry, can you say again?
What accommodation offers independent apartments?
Independent apartments.
Yes.
Kunskapsfabriken.
Bäckadal. Yes.
Yeah.
How big the possibility is for international students to get one of 3 options? Quite big. We mentioned that in the webinar during the presentation. We have to pay rent in advance, like first semester fee, or we will pay when we reach Jönköping. All
payments are made after you arrive here, so you don't have to pay anything in advance except for the administrative fee. You pay when you make the actual application, and you don't and you don't have to be prepared to pay upon arrival. We will inform you about how to make the payment depending on where you will live when you arrive. So there's nothing paid directly to us when you arrive. That might be good to know. The first payments are done like within a week or two after arrival.
If my parent comes with me to help to get settled at the beginning of the semester, does the 3-night rule still applies?
No, I'm sorry, it doesn't actually, because we do not want the options to be crowded with people who are not supposed to stay there when everyone is arriving. It's important that it's just for the students during this period. So if you're bringing your parents, I would recommend them to stay in a hostel or hotel.
Is it normal if we have not received our username and password to connect on the accommodation website?
Yes.
Yes, you will shortly do. I have the same issue about my credentials. I can log for student application website, but it shows error while trying to apply in the accommodation website. So yeah, we have taken the notice of this problem, and Susanna is going to try to fix it with IT.
Yeah.
And are there holidays? Yes, please look at the student web, and you will find, once you're admitted and you get the access, so you'll find all of these informations. Is there a deposit which we can pay? If yes, how much would it be? Well, we have already answered that. You only have to pay once you come here and sign up the contract, and the only payments you have to do is the 700 Swedish crowns application fee, which you have to do, which is non-refundable.
Yeah.
Is in an apartment with shared kitchen and bathroom, with how many people will we share those facilities?
It's very difficult to say because it depends on the dormitory. It's from 3 to 4 people up to between 5 and 10. It depends on the dormitory and how it's divided. Do
I have to stay at the same apartment for all of my study years? Yes, if
you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can only give you a guarantee once when you begin your education here. Could you give information regarding laundry services and washing machine dryer provided in all the accommodations?
It's provided in all accommodations. In most accommodations, it's a common facility, and you will book a time. You book your laundry slots to use the laundry and dryer.
So yes, I'm not going to answer. So the next question is about Konstskaps Fabriken and Beckedal are the only options for individual apartments. Yes, right?
Yes.
Will the introduction week be for sure held online? So far, we have not so much information, right? I'm not so sure about that.
We are planning for an introduction week that will be held on campus, but as you all know, in regards to how everything is going with COVID-19, and it's impossible for us to say. We know that everyone is working to try to get the campus open as for the upcoming semester, and that's what we all are looking forward to, but we don't know yet.
Great. Thank you very much, Susanna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And it has been a very long session. We initially decided that this was going to be for 1 hour, but since we saw that there were a lot of questions, so we took it 25 minutes extra. But thank you very much for joining in, and please, you can always tune into this webinar later on, as we would put this feedback onto our YouTube channel and also on the JU web. Thank you very much. All the best. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.